Hey guys, this is Georgia with Ancient Aliens, and you're listening to That One Time I Was Abducted by Aliens with Jaimie and Bree.
You're listening to That One Time I Was Abducted by Aliens. I'm Jaimie.
I'm Bree, and we're two sides of the coin.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of That One Time I Was Abducted by Aliens. Things look a little bit weird on the screen if you're not our audio listeners and our YouTube listeners. It's me, it's Jaimie, I'm here, but we are sans Bree today. She's doing some UFO stuff right now that we can't talk about, but we have Bobby, my co-host, filling in for me. Everyone say hi to Bobby. And then we have Amy down here, the wonderful, sweet Amy, Aliengirl111, who has a YouTube show. And we're here for Experience November. And we are talking about Amy and her experiences and her whole journey into this whole UFO world that she is currently taking by storm with Aliengirl111 YouTube channel. Yes. It truly is. So,
it's
Amy,
fun.
where...
And I met you.
I know, right?
That's like the best part. Anyway.
Where did you start dipping your toes in? Like, where was your first experience and how did you get involved in this crazy world?
Yeah. So I remember being like 8 years old and I was watching TV and Linda Moulton Howe came on. She was on the TV and she was showing all the cattle being mutilated. She was explaining how that couldn't happen. And even at the age of 8, I knew that was weird. And then when I was like 12, watching the news again, big triangular craft rolling through Phoenix, Arizona, a mile long, 2 miles long. I look at my dad, what is that? He's like, I guess that's an alien spaceship. And it just kind of, and I live in New Mexico. So it's a huge I live, and just the history of like UFO history here is absolutely, insane. But and then when YouTube came out, I'm sure both of you can understand, the first thing probably a lot of us UFO nuts did was like UFO, right? In YouTube, like the second I got a freaking phone or whatever YouTube, I was like UFO. And so I wanted to watch like I'd never seen anything up until that point. I live, in New Mexico. There are Air Force bases around. And so they're throughout the city, sometimes you can be in an area of the city where like you can see that stuff, because you're near an Air Force base. So I was somewhere in the city, right? And I was near one of these Air Force bases. It's actually Kirtland Air Force Base, which is a prominent one. There's been UFO sightings there. It's legit. And like there's like this triangular TR3B
guys.
Yeah. Like, straight up. It's cool to talk to people who are into it, right? Like
because they know exactly the imagery.
Yeah. Back in junior tech, who knows what it was, but it was a TR3B rolling. Okay. And I look at it and I was like looking at it, right? And at first I thought it was birds, but like birds don't glow at 10 p.m. at night.
And they don't glow at all, I don't think.
It was totally
not at all, yeah.
And then it like rolled right in front of me. And then
at the time of witnessing that, did you know what it was, or did you think it was something alien, or what was going through your head? I
knew.
Then? Okay.
I knew what I saw. And I was going to go tell everyone. So that's exactly what I did. And boy, was I shocked with the response of people and how they perceived me after that. I was like, hey guys, guess what? I saw a UFO. Everyone thinks you're seeking attention and all this stuff. But when I really like break it down logically and I look back at the experience, I mean, it's right by an Air Force base. We know there's back engineered technology. We're seeing these things flying up and down in the ocean. Maybe I'm not as crazy as even I thought I was with what I saw that day. But when I saw that and I was like surrounded by all these people who were just like, there's no way, Amy, you didn't see that. I was like, screw this. This is not how it needs to be. So I went and I was looking for a YouTube video that looked exactly what I saw. And I found a couple that look like what I've seen. And I see them frequently. Like I see, you know, the different type, right? It's like a triangular one. Yeah. And so that became frustrating, not knowing that like people just couldn't believe me. Like people, they just can't believe me when I say I saw a UFO, you know, but it's so fun to hang out with you guys because you're like, yeah, you know, that stuff happens.
Yeah, I consider this a lot like therapy in the sense that like it's really interesting how you like can bring these phenomenon up to people that you love and trust and know, and you bring these things up in good faith, and it's like dismissed or eye rolled or whatever it is, and it's like, dude, I'm not here to, you know me, right? You have that whole like, what are you you know, what is like, it's just really interesting how like any challenge to anyone's paradigm that's uncomfortable with, you know, penetrating their worldview into something unfamiliar is so, they get so defensive about it. And it doesn't matter whether you go the true UFO alien route or you say maybe it was a government thing. It's almost like sounds equally insane to a lot of people. So yeah, just to your point, I like that we can all kind of get together and discuss these things in a non-judgment zone, if that makes sense.
And Amy, who was the first person that you talked to in your life about these experiences who did believe you?
Good question, Jaimie. Give me a second. That's
Jaimie.
a good one. Who was the first person?
Yeah, because you have all of these people who are telling you, I don't believe you, I'm not into it, but you have to remember the first person who were like, hey, I saw a UFO, and they were like, oh, really? Tell me more.
I'm trying to think like pre-internet.
Like you didn't have like a friend or a cousin or your partner at the time?
It's not like my friends didn't disbelieve me, and it's not like they were upset, or it's not like they were trying. They just were so shocked.
I get you.
They couldn't relate.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started talking about it on shows and stuff, you guys understand the context of everything I just said within the USOs, the UFOs, and people like they just disregard it, or they show no interest in it. They see no reason to put interest in it. The first person who believed, my mom.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, that's a good one to have, I guess.
That is a good one to have.
My mom said she believed me.
Now, when you were looking
I believe you.
Me too. When you were looking at these YouTube videos to try to reference what it is that you saw, did you start to find a community of people who were talking about UFOs? Or did that not come till later? That was during that time?
Yeah, well, those were the live chats, Third Phase of Moon. The second they launched Third Phase of Moon live chats, I was in there hanging out.
Yeah.
And I was ready for it, you know, I was ready for disclosure. Anybody, you know, the second I could get, I mean, I look back on it, and I it's always been with me, like the citizens hearing in 2001. I look back at 2001, I was putting my internet jack into my computer and in the wall, and I was going to find the Stephen Greer hearing. And I watched it, and it was like 6 hours long. I watched it live, I think live. I mean, there was only one to watch it. And I don't know. It all kind of unfolds, and then I get sucked into it. Like I get sucked into it sometimes more than when I'm searching for it.
Yeah.
So it makes it like fun. And then I'm like, well, you know, there are these things ahead that I have to go and accomplish. Yeah. So every time I feel like, okay, I'm gonna deviate, it's just like it's built into me. Does that make sense? It feels like it's built into me. Like you're like, when was the first community? Well, the live chats were it, because I didn't have to tell people who Phil Schneider was. I didn't have to explain all of this stuff. Like these were people who really knew, and I could bounce the real ideas off of it. Okay, do you know how long it takes any of us to explain to our friends the in-depth crazy stuff that we look at, we like to hear about, research, and just knowing like every little detail of all these little cases.
And you almost have to get them bought into like 10 different things before you can get to the thing you actually want to talk about, which drives me crazy. But you had mentioned that you had seen the Linda Moulton House stuff, and then I'm assuming it was the Phoenix lights that you had mentioned earlier. Was that kind of the fuse that was lit, or did you gravitate more towards the stuff after you started having your own experiences, or were you always kind of interested in it?
I was always into it.
Okay.
Always.
And
Always.
did you ever find yourself, because you were now more involved with the subject, having more sightings of things?
No, but I would say like consciousness and
Mhm.
telepathy and like my psychic abilities have just, and sometimes it's like a lot of vibrations and energy.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because I think a lot of people don't necessarily, when they think about UFOs and things, they don't bring in the psychic and the consciousness aspect of it. So it's interesting that you mentioned that, because a lot of people don't associate it with that. There's this big divide, I think, within the UFO community with these nuts and bolts and these consciousness spiritual people. And I think that you're somebody who totes the line between those two, because you're somebody who's really into the government documents that are coming out, but you're also really into the spiritual side of it. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I definitely remote view. Um, and my experiences, yeah. Like I've talked about this briefly on a couple shows where it's hard for me, like when we talk about astral projection,
Mm-hmm.
I've had some deep meditations that have transformed me. It did feel like it was real. It did feel like I was right there, right? And it was weird. The message I got was weird.
What was your
And
message that you got?
I
Yeah,
think
let's
maybe
start from
this
the
is what's
beginning with
fun.
the astral projection thing. I want to talk about that.
I don't know if I did though.
That means you did.
That I was gonna say, usually when someone says they don't know if they did or not, that usually makes me feel like they're a little bit more inclined to actually be doing it. I want to know, what message did they give you? Because that's very interesting.
Yeah, sure. So I would say the entity, like my power alien,
Mm-hmm.
like a power animal, but a power alien, is like a female sort of like goddessy motherly alien.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I guess you could say I feel like I encountered her twice.
Mm-hmm.
The first was when I was doing CE5 in my backyard. And that's when I posted my first video, which was the picture of the craft. It's just a little dot. Who knows, right? Like it's not the best evidence, but I kept saying like I was like I wanted to be able to take a photo, right? And I said if I took a photo, I put it on the internet. This is where, so it all started. The
It all starts
aliens,
there,
baby,
yeah.
yeah, it starts there. And then I go and I get like, and so it was just weird because in that moment, like there was some feminine sort of energy there. I can't really explain. And then I went and I did the Stephen Greer meditation. And this is where I did the Stephen Greer meditation. And it was like the one you pay for that's $5 or whatever, I was like,
A little app, yeah.
I was like, it was a day off. We were going to do this right. We were going to get in touch with the aliens. So I go and do my little Stephen Greer not podcast, but my Stephen Greer meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so this is my in-depth, okay, I'm transformed and I'm going to this planet. And this planet is completely barren. It's completely desert. There's barely any atmosphere. It's rocks and dirt and nothing's growing and no life forms. There's nothing. Okay. And there's this entity and she's sitting on a rock, meditating. And she's got like clothing on, just like a nice little robe. Her head's probably like this big. And she says, "You're finally here." And I was like, this is such a freaking weird story. She was
What a
like, "You're
nice
finally
greeting."
here."
Oh,
And
it's
I
not
was
weird
like,
at
I was like,
all.
"What?" I was like, she was like, "Well, I'm glad you came here on time." And I was like, "What is this place?" And she's like, "Well, I talk to people all the time throughout all sorts of different dimensions. You know, and I'm bringing you here so that we can kind of, discuss some things." And I was like, "Okay, well, okay, so what am I doing here? Like, why would you tell me this? Like, what am I here to learn?" And she just said, "Love." And then she gave me like this really warm, amazing hug, like hugging like just somebody who, and then she said, "I want you to go back and teach them love." And I was like, "Wait, no, this is confusing." I was like, "I don't understand, like what's your name? What's your name? And she told me her name was Sita.
Mother of Earth in Hindu.
I did not know that in the
Really?
meditation.
Oh.
I looked it up later.
Ah.
And Jess from the Jess Raji, she had a similar goddessy astral meditation like this as well. And then I was like, well, I need to know more. You got to tell me what's up. And this motherly entity was like, no, I have other appointments. It's time for you to go. I have other appointments. And then I was back.
Interesting. So, okay. Do you think that, okay, you say that it felt real. So to me, in my mind, I think that the astral plane that those things happen on is real. Like, it's not a dream time. It is just a different dimension of reality that we are reaching into. Do you kind of feel that same way about that?
Oh, definitely.
Because I would like, to me, I would say that like, that's an alien experience. That's you have an experience with an alien, whether it was in person flesh on Earth, it was in person and real in your life.
Well, I mean, it has to be, right? Like it's not all made up. And like I'm telling you how I'm even like stuttering, but it's a lot's opened up, right? And then we have 11/11, November 11th is on Thursday. So that's going to be a big like portal opening. I feel this way.
Where's that? Where does that come from? Is that like a significant number historically, like with
11/11 in numerology is like the beginning. It's like the dawn. It's transcending. It's everything.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so right, the name of the show is Aliengirl111. There are numbers associated with these energies, 111. And so I don't know, it's been a powerful number to put at the end of the name.
It is. I guess we should, for everyone who's watching and listening, Bree's here. Hi, Bree, welcome.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sorry, my microphone's not working. It's like, of course, because I think I was in a hurry to jump on with you guys. Oh wait,
it's all good. It's all good. You are here. You are here.
Better now.
You sound fine either way, both ways. In all honesty.
Oh Lord, have mercy. Anyway, it's nice to see you, Amy.
Yeah, you too. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm sure I missed so much.
I know. I was just going to say, and Amy was just telling us about how in a meditative state, she had an experience with a being on a planet. And we were just talking about how there's these different kind of experiences. Just because you didn't have like an in-person alien show up at your doorstep doesn't mean that that's not an experience. You had an experience on a different level, and that's just as valid as someone who would say that they were abducted or that they talked to an alien in their basement.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's more valid.
I do
agree,
too. I think it's more valid, especially because, there's all this talk about how a lot of abduction programs have ended. And so a lot of people that have been going through these typical flesh and blood type of experiences, they're actually MyLab experiences. They're military.
Right.
Yes.
So I think it just makes sense that it would be in that plane. I'll take these stupid glasses off. I don't need them anymore.
I love that. So it also, it told Amy that it had this message of love. It wanted you to go back and teach love. So Amy, what did you interpret that as?
That's
just
amazing.
love in general, or what's the feeling you got from that? Like, what is it that you took from that experience that you're bringing to the UFO world?
Yeah, well, love can transcend it all. Love can make things come together. A lot of people have a trouble with some of the people that I promote or I like to bring on my show, and I support them. I think that they're bringing a lot in. So I think, in that terms, just coming in with full love for everybody in the community so that they can share and talk and whatever. It doesn't have to be super serious. But yeah, I guess that's one thing, just giving love to everybody.
Yeah, I think something that needs to happen in the UFO community is people need to stop hating so much on people's guests that they have, I think sometimes, because the alien world is inclusive of everybody, and there's a space for everybody. And I think that it's so invalidating of people to try to knock down of, well, why are you talking to this person, or why are you talking to this person, or why are you letting this person have a platform? You have a show and you can have a platform and show whoever and whatever stories you want to showcase. Don't you dare ever let anyone get you down for the type of content that you're putting out there. Everybody's stories are important. Even stories that me and Bree don't believe in, or even Bobby, like we on Cryptid Corner, we do cover cases that we do not believe in any capacity, but there's importance in talking about those things, and we can be respectful of those people and those stories and those spaces.
Absolutely, Jaimie.
Yeah, and
that's
it's
a
like that
great
thing,
point.
like it's like with anything, especially within like a fringe group, it's like, guys, we're pretty few and far between. Like we're kind of the, for lack of a better word, like the outcasts from the normies. We might as well like hang out and talk about various perspectives and ideas and theories, rather than even atomizing our already atomized group in and of itself. Like I hate politics
Oh
of
my
stuff like
God.
this. It's so annoying. And I mean, I've said to you guys a million times, whether it be aliens or whatever else, I listen to and read books and watch YouTube videos or whatever on a lot of people I disagree with. But that doesn't mean you can't learn something from them. That means doesn't mean you can't. Like you don't have to agree with everyone 100% of the time.
Mhm.
And you
That's
shouldn't.
boring.
And you shouldn't.
That is
Yeah,
so
exactly.
boring. Like if you're not changing your perspective, you are indoctrinated. You need to learn how to. If you got into this, say 5 years ago, just hypothetically, if you got into the alien UFO thing 5 years ago, and your perspective on it has not evolved within that 5 years,
there's a problem.
You're just an
my
NPC
gosh,
at that
totally.
point.
No, I couldn't agree with
Yeah.
you more. You have to, I think one thing in this community is you have to evolve with the time. And if you're not doing that, then there's a problem there. Like, what is it that you're really supporting and you're trying to put out there if you're not evolving with what's going on?
I can't tell you how many times I've changed my like thought process about this so many times, and it even changed it back. And that's the thing we have to do. It's about growth, no matter what you're doing. I just think it's so helpful to get as many perspective out there as you can. And I feel like that's what we're doing too. It's like, you know, hey, you want to come on the show? I might not necessarily believe your story, but I think it's helpful to just get a story out there. And it's like that diversity, I think, is really what puts the bigger pieces together as well. So if we all just stuck to the same people that have the same viewpoints, we're only seeing a really small portion of what's really out there.
And I'm the type of person that, like, if there's a controversial figure and people say I shouldn't listen to them or read them, or
I go do it immediately.
I'm like, that's the first person I'm going to order their book on Amazon or whatever, you know. So you're
But
not
don't get
helping
me
by
wrong.
shaming people or, you know,
No.
ousting them. You're helping
But-
them, if anything, as far as I'm concerned.
It is normal too, though, to not align with someone in their information.
Yeah, that's
But
totally
I think
normal
it's
and
about-
fine. Yeah.
I think it's just about doing it in a respectful way. If something isn't for you, then just don't take it and move on, but not pick it apart.
Couldn't
You
agree
know?
with you more.
I love
Unless you're
getting-
contextually in some sort of debate format, like I think you
Yeah.
can still
Well,
bring
then that's a
respect to
different
that
story.
table.
Yeah.
But I think
But
we
it's about
could use
respect. Yeah.
some of that stuff as well if we want to kind of solidify what this phenomenon actually is. You do need conflicting
Viewpoints, 100%.
viewpoints to try to, like, what's the word, like, synthesize it down and like bleed it down into something new, you know. So anyway.
Absolutely. So, Amy, did you start your show before or after you had this experience with the being?
Oh, after, like 2 years
After?
after.
2 years
Yeah.
after. So
Yeah.
what is it that pushed you to jump to do a live show on YouTube? There had to have been some sort of event in your life that made you want to get out of the chat rooms and start your own.
Yeah, I wanted to hang out with the people in the TV. I was like, you know, this isn't, because it was the middle of 2020, and I was like, what's holding me back? This looks cool. I want to be on these shows. I want to talk about aliens. I want to have fun with this. This is cool. People start their own little shows. They get like a couple people in the chat room. It's fun. I was like, that's like the coolest thing. Sorry, my glasses are messing with me.
Oh, you're fine. You're
But
fine.
yeah, dude, it was that. Yeah.
You know, I will say,
Pure
like,
fun.
it's incredibly lonely. I'm not an experiencer at all, but I'm highly interested in this stuff, and that alone is lonely, let alone someone that needs to talk to somebody else that has actually had these experiences. Is like, I can only imagine it's like a whole different level of trying to find some sort of outlet to someone to just, be a soundboard to, or interview someone that you respect in the community. Like, that's what's great about the internet now, is you can, like, what's stopping you? Like, we have everything we need. Get it a webcam and a microphone, and it's pretty easy now. Like, you guys, like, even Jaimie and Bree, you guys started your thing, what, 5-6 years ago?
5, yeah.
I mean, and look how much it's grown already, and look how many prestigious names and voices you've talked to and had the opportunity, and the types of people you meet, like Amy and myself, of course.
Of course,
you guys are the best.
Class.
And I never even got a webcam. No, I have a webcam. I just never use it. So it's just like you can do whatever with almost just as little like stuff as possible, really. It's like you could even use your phone if you really wanted to be super grassroots about it. You don't need all of the fanciest equipment. Yeah, it helps, but I think if you have something good to bring to the table, it doesn't really matter that much.
No,
so if we want to, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and it's true, because Amy's channel started off really small, and it's over 1,000 people on there. People are donating to her every time she goes live. Like, it's a big deal, Amy. Like,
there's no more gatekeepers. No more gatekeepers.
There's not gatekeepers. Not just that, Amy, but you are a shining star in this community. You obviously have something going on for you to keep excelling like you do, and people to keep reacting the way you do. Because I think at the end of the day, what it is, Amy, is you're just like everyone else in your chat, because that's where you started. You're just like all of these people that you're talking to, and that really resonates with them. You're bringing them information the same way that you had information brought to you.
Yes, and that was it. Jaimie, you hit it right on the nail, because like, I remember wanting, like, just, people have their thoughts about being in the live chat, but for a lot of people, the live chat's where they go, man. To kick back, because they got 5 kids, or maybe they're homebound, or maybe they're really old, or whatever. Some people kick it in those chats all the time, because they've got something that prevents them from being able to. Not everybody, but for me, I was sitting at home taking care of my kid, and that was what I did. That was my hobby. And I noticed that, and I remember, so I went to Disclosure Con like a couple weeks ago, and it was so cool, because one of my friends in the chat was like, I would have never been able to get there, Amy. I'm in the UK. I'm homebound. It's so cool that I can just see you. All I was doing, I turned on my phone and was like, this is the hotel. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And he was like, that's cool. Thanks for showing. Because you're giving a window, and that's what keeps me going. It's like, I'll go, and I want to film, and I want to be with people. Like, there's so much cool stuff to go and do together, as the community, as the people in the chats. And I remember just watching the shows, because I always like the Third Phase of Moon, and I like all their little friends on the panel, right? Third Phase of Moon is a UFO channel, and I just remember watching it and being like, I want to
partake in that. Yeah.
Show. I remember saying that like 5-6 years ago. That's to start a show or do this, and I think 2020 was a big awakening moment for a lot of different people. Especially myself. And so then once I was able to just like get on, I literally didn't know what was going on with the mic. I literally had no place. Like, I felt like I was entranced by something. No, guys.
The muse.
Like, I'm going to grab my microphone and go into the garage for an hour and just talk some smack. And
therapy.
And so from the beginning, because I am a live chat girl, there were already people who were my friends,
who are ready to sign up.
Yeah, from day one.
That's
like
cool.
The magic started from day one, because Renee Cruz came to the first episode. I've known Renee for, gosh, I don't even know how long.
No, and you have such a great community behind you that's so supportive of you. Your listeners and your watchers and everyone in the live chat makes music for you. People make banners for you. Everyone is just so excited and supportive of you and what you're doing. And that's why you're growing as fast as you are, honestly.
Well, I love everybody in the chat. They're all my friends.
And that reflects with how they treat you.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of, God, why does that hit me hard? Oh,
good. It's true though.
Well, because I think it's really hard when you get really into different shows and then someone's like, well, you're my fan. And you're like, well,
we don't use fan. We say
really,
like listeners.
not when I'm in your live
watchers.
chat for like the last 5 years. And I know a lot of crazy things about like, no, like I don't, do you know what I mean? So it's just a total different paradigm. We're not just like a radio show. We're a freaking group of people who've been hanging out with each other in these live chats for years. I'm going to be honest with you.
Tell us.
Sometimes I don't listen to the shows I'm watching.
Me too. I do.
Sometimes I'm just there for the live chat.
Amy, same thing. And I actually tell people when I'm at work, I'm like, I'm here in the live chat, but my sound is off. I have no idea what's going on in the background. I'm just here to say hi to everyone all the time.
Yeah. I just want to say hi.
I do the same thing.
Because I think I've seen you 4 times today, Jaimie.
Probably, in all honesty, I am on that live fucking circuit.
Right. And so that's the power. And I just think that's the power. Like you do a Twitter poll, people want to know. I want to know what everybody else thinks. When you get live and there's like 50 people in the chat, it's like a different vibe. It's not, it's not me. It's the vibe of everyone there. It's the vibe of the people coming in. I mean, I was freaking floored last week. I had all sorts, including Angela streaming randomly. Angela was like, I'm here. And I was like, what? And that's the thing. I never know what's going to happen. And like for the longest time, it was like when I get to 1,000 subs, when I monetize, and now it's there. And it's just like every step after this, I'm shocked it's made it this far. Shocked.
Like, it's gonna go farther.
But I am happy though.
I know you are. This
was the dream. This was what I hoped could happen one day, and it happened.
It's all that matters.
Yes.
I know Bobby has a question.
Yeah, one of the themes, this is kind of for everybody, but one of the themes I'm noticing in this conversation alone is just that more or less the ease of use and the network that the internet has provided with us has given us the ability to create these communities and these chambers to have these conversations and for people to be validated outside of their physical social circle that may scoff at it or whatever. If we want to subscribe to the whole like back engineering thing, how technology took an abrupt evolution in the middle of the 20th century, do you think that perhaps that evolution of technology may have been part of a larger, more esoteric agenda to wake the consciousness through technology with these various communities? Jaimie, you're shaking your head.
Okay, so I don't think about it so much on the consciousness side of it, but if you look at statistically what's happening with this technology wise is when you have the UFO boom going on where people were seeing a lot of sightings around the Roswell area, our technology took off and skyrocketed, and after that moment it went nowhere and has gone nowhere since. So it's interesting that you look at those correlations when people try to say that there's no possibility in the world that we could have back engineered craft. When you just statistically look at how we are with technology and how it works, we went up one big spike when we did the wheel, we went up one big spike after Roswell crashed. And if you're just looking at the data, there's something bigger going on. I don't necessarily know if it is serving in a sense of trying to be consciousness, but I think that it's the government self-serving themselves.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about like consciousness from like a biological standpoint. I'm just talking about like people's paradigms and acceptance of what actually is or may be true or more open to these kind of ideas. So if you go into the whole like Eisenhower, if you subscribe to the whole like Eisenhower's deal with the Greys or whatever, all that stuff, whatever it may be, like this new awakening, which is a word that I think is incredibly cliche at this point, but it's, for lack of a better word, this new kind of acceptance within more people because we can get together like this. is that just a byproduct of technology, or was that kind of part of the plan to push humanity
Okay, I get what you're
forward?
saying.
You know what I mean?
So so I see where Jaimie is, but Amy, where does your mind sit with that?
Immediately, we're already there. We're already there. Come on. You know, when I was thinking about you, Jaimie, before you, I think you've messaged me, and I was like, I was just thinking about you
All the time.
all the time. You know what I mean? Like all the time. So I think just the text messaging alone, it's helping us align more with all of our thought patterns. We can follow them through hashtags or communities. These are no longer books with paper in it. These are, you know, Elon Musk talks about the atrophy of knowledge, which is when the smartest super duper person smart in the world dies, a lot of information dies with that person. It's in their brain. If Avi Loeb died tomorrow, we would be missing something that he did not get to get on paper or put in an interview or put out there, you know? And so that's where things, you know, they start to get really wild for sure. And so I think when it comes to talking about all these things and the atrophy of knowledge, we're all connected right now, and right, like we're getting closer to the collective unconsciousness. At least on some level, we might already be there.
I think
at the very least, it's easier to consolidate it and evolve it forward. So like back in the day, you know, let's go all the way back to like academia in Greece or whatever. It was just like certain people of the population were privileged enough to go into like these schools that Plato taught at or whatever, Aristotle, whatever. And it was this very exclusive concentration of voices, much smaller than what we have now. And they were able to hash out ideas over a very long period of time. I feel like, using the UFO thing as an example, I feel like the perspective and the paradigm of the UFO phenomenon compared to like now versus like even like 1995 is something completely different than what we thought of it as in the 90s. And now, because we've all been able to come together, bounce ideas off of each other, it's consolidated that collective unconsciousness within the greater collective and pushed it even faster and even bigger than ever was possible before.
Well, and I think what you have to understand too is that I think that the internet was not meant to be what it is today, right? It wasn't meant to be this giant information highway that is unregulated and it's just insane out there. I think what happened is that the internet might have been started and the government might have been on the side of it because they saw a way that they could use it as a tool. And I think that it got so out of control that it's out of their hands at this point. I don't think that it was
out of the bottle.
Exactly. I don't think it was ever intended to form us all in these groups. I think it was meant to do the opposite of that. I think it was meant for control and a way to spy on people. They were like, oh, this sounds great. We're going to have the internet. We'll be in everyone's home.
Well, they're still doing that.
Well, exactly. They're still having that. But I don't think that they didn't expect Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all the other things that arose with the internet that are now kind of counteracting a lot of the things and aiding a lot of the things that
look at all the gatekeeper narratives of like corporate media that's just floundering right now. Like
so
no one
horribly.
listens to that. It's all dying. It's all old guard dying, and now everyone gets all their information from people like you guys.
I mean, and
in this context at least, or wherever for whatever.
And that's
else.
how it started. If you look at the slow decline of like the paper newspaper, like the actual physical paper newspaper, nobody gets those anymore. You started reading it online. Then after you stopped reading it online, you stopped dealing with the bullshit of these news websites because they were so crazy that you start going to these blogs and these other things, and you go down these rabbit holes where news media does not have the same power it had 10, 15 years ago over the population that it did.
But and then we have to get into the whole thing: is truth a product of a collective perception within a group of people or an individual, or is there objective? I don't want to get super.
I was like, that's going to get super fucking deep, because you have to understand that on some level, we all have our own personal truths that we have, and my personal truth cannot be your personal truth, and vice versa, or you know what I mean, or it could or it couldn't. So I think when you get into that, you can't talk about people's truth collectively, because I think it gets much more broken down.
And I still think that there is a scaffolding of like the truth within human nature or physics or the cosmos. Some of it we may not understand yet, but there is still some sort of like set of rules there, I would say.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely. I think that when it goes down to like what I believe how the universe works in general is I signed a soul contract. I'm doing exactly what I signed up myself to do. So I have no questions about what my path is or what I have going on. I'm just kind of like tooting along with it, like, all right, thanks, aliens. I'm doing my little alien dance over here. I'm gonna keep going until you tell me to do something else. And so to me, it's not, there's a framework that I have around me and I'm following it. I could deviate from it of any time if I genuinely wanted to. I am just currently in my path. You know what I mean?
And when on that note, Jaimie, and anyone can answer this, but when we start to accept or subscribe to paradigms that are larger than ourselves, do you find that you're less prone to fear?
No.
You're okay.
Amy, you answer this. I feel like
Yeah, Amy.
Sorry.
We're like we get into
Deep,
the three of us get
questions.
the three of us get into fucking tangents sometimes about stuff.
Yeah.
Does it make me more scared
Yeah.
Like,
when I
when
think
you-
of the
when
big
you-
picture?
When you know, yeah, like I think it could go one of two ways. It could go existential crisis way, where you're like, oh, I'm just a dot on this larger grand scheme, or it could be like, oh, this is part of a larger plan. This is something that, you know what I mean? Like you could perceive it one way or the other. I was just curious, like when you accept that you're a part of something larger than yourself, or a part of some phenomenon that most people don't subscribe to, or a perspective that people don't see the way you do, are you more prone to, let's say life kicks you in the teeth, do you feel like that's just part of the larger mechanism? Or you know what I'm trying to say? I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I get what you're trying
Yeah.
to say. So basically what he's trying to say is that like when you have obstacles come in front of you, do you take that as like a fear and run and hide, or do you like stand in your power and be like, let's go? Like, well, how do you
So
yeah, go for it.
there are philosophies, right? There are philosophies and ways of thinking that we've been following for a long time, right? Like one, we were told that there was no ice anywhere in the solar system but Earth. You know, we were told, I mean, we're just constantly being told to believe that something like, and what's weird to me is that we wouldn't see something bigger, that for some reason we've been taught that we'll be on this rock, this planet will explode, and we'll all die. For some reason that doesn't piss us off enough to try to get off of it. And we don't even know 98% of the asteroids that could hit our planet today. We don't know. You know, and so no, man, it always makes me feel like, let's get this going. I think like the total opposite. No, I don't have an existential crisis. I'm like, what do I do? No, I know what we do.
Especially with your astral project, bring it back to your experience with this like feminine entity. It's almost like you experience something larger than yourself. So I would think that would like give you some sort of like cradle of comfort to some degree. In the grand scheme.
Definitely.
Right.
There needs to be like, I don't understand the idea that we're just gonna let this amazing, crazy thing called life just disappear. Like, okay, I understand it. Space travel is expensive, and maybe we should be thinking about everything on the planet. I totally understand it, but like on another level, it's like, are you just gonna let everything die? Are you gonna let your house burn down? Are you gonna let your whole field die and like not water it because of something else? It's time to like, we've got to keep humanity going. We've got to make sure that we get this life out there onto other planets. We need to. There are planets. We think there are planets like Earth, and there probably are. There might even be people like you and I that could help us. There could be entities that want to help us transcend. You know, there could be so many amazing things, and people are like, well, what if they're all not nice? Well, they're not going to be nice. It's just going to be like Earth.
Yeah, we're not nice either.
Yeah, we're a bunch of assholes. Exactly.
Yeah, and then there's going to be amazing people, and then there's going to be crazy evil people.
Yeah, I always think it's so funny. People are like, oh, the threat narrative, aliens are going to come down. Well, we would do that. If an alien showed up on our White House lawn, we would shoot it. So why should we expect anything different from the fucking aliens?
Well, we did shoot it. We did.
Battle of Los Angeles.
The White House is 1952, right? The lights over the White House, over Washington. They scrambled the F-16s.
It makes no sense to me that they, yeah, that's why I hate the threat narrative. Like, we're the ones who are threatening if anything. We're the scary ones with the big giant bombs and the goddamn nukes.
Unless you want to go down the whole like intergalactic imperialism thing, like when let's say the Spaniards or whoever arrived in like South America, those might as well have been aliens to the and we don't have to go into their whole belief system or anything. I'm just saying, like, in the tangible reality across the ocean might as well have been outer space.
Well, that's exactly when we talk about people like looking at UFOs, they're using the words that they know how to describe them.
Right.
To them, it could have been anything. It's the same thing when we see a UFO. We don't know what the fuck we're looking at. So we're like, it's an orb.
Right. I said fiery birds.
Yeah, fiery birds made no sense, but it's like, but that's what your brain interprets it as. You are bound to where you are, how you grew up, and what time you're in, and that's the words and the phrases you use.
Yeah. Okay, what other experiences you got, Alien Girl?
Yeah,
111?
any more aliens that you had?
No, those are great. No, I was just curious.
I mean, I don't know. I think just starting the show in general has been an insane, amazing experience on so many different levels. Because like you were like, well, I wanted to be in the TV with you guys, you know. Because it was just interesting. I would be in the live chats watching Jane and Jess because I loved their show, that weird Hollywood. And I remember seeing you guys. Oh, that's creepy.
On there.
I was looking at Jaimie and Bree and I said that I'm gonna hang out with these girls.
Honestly, the first time we met was on one of Jane's shows. And I'm not gonna lie, Amy, I think we've talked to each other nonstop since that show.
Probably.
I think at this point, yeah, like pretty much nonstop since that show, we've like been in our Twitter DMs with each other.
Yeah, nonstop. Yeah, and so that's what's been really weird, like, you know, and then knowing that I know I'm gonna meet you guys one day. I know
soon,
we're gonna be at a UFO conference and we're gonna hang out and we're gonna kick back, and just like Kelly Lee Dodge and just the friends you make, you know, you're like, where did this person come from? And it's like transforming, you know, my life. Yeah, and I it's just so interesting, like, to talk about it, the show from the angle that you were talking about it, as it being like this, it's like a group of people, it's a movement. It might just be us throwing alien emojis and rainbows into a chat, but it's so much more than that.
But it's a community. I think that's what anybody who gets into the UFO field, whether it's podcasting or YouTube live shows or anything like that, at the end of the day, I think what you're looking for is just a community to feel comfortable and to talk to with, you know. That's why me and Bree started it, because we wanted a community to talk to. That's why Bobby's around. He wanted a community to talk to. I think at the end of the day, that's why I don't understand so much of the bickering or the he said, she said, or the throwing things around, because at the end of the day, we just wanted a community where we can all talk to each other about this stuff.
Amy, when you started your channel, did you foresee it growing to where it has now, or did you just start doing it and with an attitude of like, let's just see what happens, it's going to be fun? Or did you have any kind of like long-term goals there, or were you just kind of following your passion or something else completely?
You know, people were watching it. That's what made it. Yeah, like if I made a video, like I have a crafting channel and I'll work really hard on something, you know, shoot it from all these different angles, get some really cool music, spend $50 on materials, get 24 views. You know, and you're like, okay, that was cool, but like, I don't like, it's fun when you can make a video that really helps people. But then just to see that people really like this content, it's something that I know. I've seen too many boys, sorry, Bobby, on these shows who they you know, I've seen too many boys, and honestly, like I not to sound cocky, but I rival their knowledge, and I love being put in front of them. And I've learned not to second guess myself when I'm surrounded by men on a panel. I don't second guess myself. A lot of the time they'll be like, well, you don't know your research, you didn't look that up. That's a good one to shut somebody up. Not just a woman, but anybody. Yeah. You know, because you can't cross-reference it in the moment when you're having the conversation. But I can't tell you how many times somebody has done that to me on a show. And so I have to be like, well, I guess I don't know. And then I go look it up and I was right, like so much of the time. I mean,
You have to stop
and-
second guessing yourself.
yeah.
I'll
And
show
so then
myself
when
the
that
door.
happens, you know, just jumping in and just being like, I'm not gonna second guess myself. And a lot of things in
Mhm.
2020 happened that made me think, you know what? It's time I don't shut up. It's time I go out there and I say things, because the freaking Titanic's coming down and everybody's pretending like it's okay and we should go get a smoke and a brandy, you know,
Ooh.
like because everybody else is like, oh, it's going to be fine. No, somebody has to say the boat is going down. If things seem off, okay, go figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
I'm
the
done.
boat,
My mantra of 2021 is I am done apologizing for paying attention. Meaning,
I like that.
you know, like people want to naysay or throw stones with these crazy ideas you may have, whether it be in or outside of the UFO community. It's like, well, that's the whole thing with like conspiracy theory in general. It's like, yes, there are some cuckoo birds out there that are into fringe topics, clearly, but who's done more research, the naysayer or the people making the claim? And it's
Exactly.
always the people making the claim.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they interpret it correctly or not, they're already more qualified than the person that's scoffing at it, I would argue, in most cases. So
I would agree
anyway.
with you. I think we've made that point before on the show, because like people who are going in and going after it are obviously going to know more than somebody who, you know, sees one YouTube video about it and they're like, oh, I don't believe it.
Mhm. I would challenge any male too.
Same here. And let's do it right now. The three of us, if anyone
I
wants
feel
to
like that's
challenge
why.
us,
I
let's
feel
go.
like that's why I did a podcast, because I already knew everything that we were going to talk about. I was like, I know I'm very extremely knowledgeable on this subject, so let's do it, you know?
right. And you know, when you girls got started, was there any girl
No,
like
No,
no,
not one.
not
Can't
one.
think of one.
Not one.
Not one.
No. It was a completely male dominated, and it was a struggle from the beginning, because at the very beginning, a lot of people only wanted to listen to us because we're women, not because we were talking about aliens. And so that was something that we had to overcome. We used to do like live videos on Instagram all the time, and the lives would turn into these very interesting, weird, long conversations that had nothing to do with about aliens. And we had to stop doing them because it was so much off of topic of what we were trying to do.
Yeah, it was just about like looks and like,
And that's why we
Yeah.
didn't do video for a long time, is because there was this stigma attached to being women. So there was a big difference between people not seeing us and just hearing us.
wow, that's insane. It's hard to
Yeah.
believe you that's you know what's really
it's
going
so
on in
different now.
2020.
There's
Oh,
just
it's
vaginas
2021.
everywhere.
Everywhere. But back when we were doing this, it was so different. I mean, we would have a hard time approaching people because a lot of the times it was male podcasters who were asking for interviews. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, as a woman,
yeah.
I would have to go up to people and be very charming in a way that men wouldn't have to be when they would have to ask things. You know what I mean? So it's like it was a different approach that we would have to have with people, because at the beginning, a lot of people didn't take us seriously.
I'm
Yeah.
just going to speak when spoken to.
Thank you, Bobby. That's why we're here. All right,
Yeah.
guys. We're
It
at the
doesn't
we're-
help to say like a
I know,
lot
right?
either.
We do. We do.
We got that all the time. That was like they're very knowledgeable, but every other word is like,
Like.
and it's driving me crazy. That's when I hit that. I'm not sorry for talking like a Californian anymore.
No, yeah. All right, guys. We're at the end of our hour, so we have to go. Any final thoughts from anyone? Anyone?
I'm sorry that I missed most of it. At least
you're
I get
fine.
to
You're beautiful.
listen
We're
and
glad you're here.
rewatch.
Exactly.
Just thank you so much for letting me come on your show. I love you girls so
Absolutely,
much.
Amy.
So
Absolutely.
crazy
You
to
too,
think that
Amy.
I like it hit me in the moment. I was like, oh my gosh, these were the people in the TV.
Well, you're here. You're one of the
These are
people in the
people
TV
in the TV
now.
I wanted to hang out with.
It's okay, because that's a little bit of
I
Bobby's
love the
origin
way that
story.
you say that in the TV.
It's kind of Bobby's origin story with us and the alien stuff, because he started listening to us, and then he like randomly DM'd me, and then I don't even know how I ended up giving him my phone number, and I jokingly say that he's my best internet friend, and we've been like
I'm smooth like that.
we've been text messaging each other for like 3 years now, never met in person, but here he is on our goddamn show.
Yeah,
So-
sorry I crashed the lady party.
No, we
Okay.
love it. We love it.
It's okay.
All right, guys, we love you so much. We'll see you guys all next week. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.